Welcome everyone, and thank you for joining us today. My name is Dejan Berisha, and I'm the Portfolio Marketing Manager for Information Security and Management at PCB. Today we will be discussing key steps in ISO 27001 Management System Certification process. It is my pleasure to introduce to you our presenter for today, Mr. Dejan Kosutic, who is the main ISO 27001 expert at Advisera. He has extensive working experience both as a tutor and as a consultant, and he is an approved tutor for ISMS Lead Auditor courses and delivers also various ISO 27001 online courses. You will have the opportunity to submit written questions to today's presenter by typing your questions into the question pane of the control panel. You may send in your questions at any time during the presentations, as we will collect and address them during the Q&A session at the end of today's presentation. Now, without further ado, we will turn over to Mr. Dejan. Mr. Dejan, please, you may start with your presentation.
Well, thanks, Adrian, and hello everyone again, and thanks for attending this webinar where I'll explain the certification process of ISO 27001. And by the way, this certification process works the same for any standard. So, what I will be saying today will also be applicable to ISO 9001 or 14001 or 22301, etc. So, as Adrian mentioned, I'm the author at 27001 Academy, and I do quite a lot of ISO 27001 consulting and training, but I also did auditing as lead auditor. So today I'm going to share with you some of my thoughts about how to handle this certification process. Okay, so in this webinar today I'll speak about how does this certification process work and how to deal with it. And just to mention that this webinar today will offer some basic information about for the beginners in this field. So if you'd like to get some more detailed information on how to prepare all the necessary things for the implementation of ISO 27001, then you should see some other webinars from PCB or from our 27001 Academy. Also, just to clarify that in this webinar today, I'll focus on certification of organizations, not on certification of persons. And if you would like to learn more about the preparations for lead auditor certification, then the best would be really to turn to PCB, because PCB already has quite a lot of programs for lead auditor and other 27001 certifications. Okay, very important thing to understand regarding the certification of ISO 27001 is that actually you can change this, I would say, negative experience of certification and certification auditor coming to your company into a rather positive one. And to do this, actually you'll have to approach the whole certification process from the positive side. Because when I worked as a certification auditor, very often I saw how nervous the client was and how they actually tried to hide some things from me. And actually they didn't understand that they could use my visit as a certification auditor, to improve their information security or even if it means revealing some stuff that is maybe potentially not good for them. The point is they can resolve any problem if they wish, resolve any nonconformity if they wish, but they will also increase their level of security by doing so. So my main point today is really, if you want to get the greatest benefit of the certification, and if you're not going only for the, let's say, certificate on the wall, then you have to approach the whole certification process from the positive side. And this is exactly what I'll explain in today's webinar. So the agenda for today is, first I'll take you through these 3 steps in the certification process. Then I'll explain you how to deal with the nonconformities that certification auditor will find, and they will find something, this is for sure. And also what you can expect from auditors and what you cannot expect from auditors. Also, when is your company ready to go for the certification? And finally, what are the main benefits of the certification? Okay, now let's start first with these 3 steps in the certification process. So, no matter which certification body you select, you will have these stages, as I will show them. And first stage is normally called the stage 1 audit or document review. So basically during this stage 1 audit, the certification auditor will go through your whole documentation and examine if these documents and records are actually compliant with the standard. And also the auditor will use this time to actually get to know your company, because at the second stage, as I will show you, he will have to go, let's say, and see if everything is working as it should. So really, I would say the objective of the first stage is for auditor to learn about your company and also to see if your documents are compliant with ISO 27001. The second stage is much more, I would say, serious and much more in-depth. So this is called the stage 2 audit, or the main audit. And in this main audit, the certification auditor will come to your company and walk around your company, speak to the people, and observe actually your facilities and so on. So as opposed to stage 1 audit, which is, I would say, rather theoretical, this stage 2 audit is much more practical, and it actually goes into really the depth of the things, and really the certification auditor is really examining everything that you do. So if you are successful at the stage 2 audit, and basically if the certification auditor does not find any major nonconformities, and I will speak about this a little bit later on, so if he finds only minor nonconformities, then actually you will get the certificate as a company. And after you get the certificate, there is also a third stage where actually the certification body needs to do the surveillance visits. Now, the purpose of these surveillance visits is actually to check out if your company is maintaining your system. Because as you probably might be aware, it's not only enough to, I don't know, produce a huge amount of paperwork. What is much harder is really to maintain your system. So, you have to do all the corrective actions, you have to do the internal audits, you have to improve all the policies and procedures that are not up to date and so on. So you have to do many things in this period of the validity of the standard, and this is the period of the validity of the certificate, and this is what actually what the auditor needs to check out during these surveillance visits. Now, the timing is that the certificate is issued for a period of 3 years. So let's say that you went for the certification in, let's say, November 2016. This means that if you're successful, the certificate will be issued until November 2019, so for the period of 3 years. And the surveillance visits need to happen at least once a year. So you will have the first surveillance visit in November of 2017, and then the second surveillance visit in November 2018. And once in November 2019, when the certificate expires, then you can actually go for the certification if this is something that you want to do. So recertification is, of course, not mandatory. This is your company's decision. But surveillance visits are mandatory if you want to keep the certificate. Okay, now let's go. Let's see how you have to deal with nonconformities. So basically, first of all, what is nonconformity? Nonconformity, the definition of a nonconformity is a failure to comply with the requirements. So what does this basically mean? If you have a requirement in the standard that you have to write statement of applicability, and if you did not write this statement of applicability, then of course you have a nonconformity. But nonconformity is also if you actually didn't comply with your own rules. So for instance, if you have a backup policy, and in this backup policy you define that you will do the backup every, let's say, 2 hours, then the certification auditor will expect you to do the backup every 2 hours, because this is something that you have written in your own policy. The standard itself doesn't actually define the frequency of the backup. This is something that you define for yourself, but whatever you have defined in this backup policy, you have to comply with. So what is actually my point here? Besides these things that are really mandatory in the standard, you really have to be careful what you're writing for your own as your own rules, because you can get nonconformity, you can get a major nonconformity, which actually prevents you from getting the certificate only but not complying with your own rules. So if you write the rules which make no sense, then you have a huge problem. So you should write only the rules that really make sense and that are really applicable to your situation. Okay, now how are the nonconformities documented? What the certification auditor does is he has to produce a report after the certification audit, and basically he will send this report to you, and then you will have this in writing. But what he will do actually before the certification, what he will do at the end of the certification audit, the certification auditor will do so-called closing meeting, where he will verbally present all the nonconformities that he has found. And I mean, theoretically, then you can argue with him that if these nonconformities are correct or not. And I mean, it's not very good thing to argue with him, because it doesn't make sense, because typically certification auditors will not make any major mistakes here. So anyway, you will get the report, and then what happens with the nonconformities? If these are major nonconformities, okay, this is something that I'll explain later, but if it is a minor nonconformity, typically you have to correct this within 12 months. Okay, now what is the difference between major and minor nonconformities? So major nonconformity means that you have, let's say, a big nonconformity that is too big to get a certificate. So if the certification auditor finds a major nonconformity, then he will not actually allow you to get the certificate. If you get some minor nonconformities, then you will, as a company, get the certificate, but you will also get the deadline of typically 12 months to correct this minor nonconformity. So just to give you an example, what is normally a major nonconformity? Major nonconformity is, let's say, if you completely don't have some mandatory document. So if you really do not have statement of applicability, this is a major nonconformity. Okay. If you didn't perform at all the process, then this is also major nonconformity. Let's say that you have the backup as a process, defined process. If you're not doing backup at all, again, this is a major nonconformity. Okay. Now, minor nonconformity would be that you do have the statement of applicability, but that it's not completely up to date. That some of the controls, because in the statement of applicability you need to define the statuses of each control. Let's say that some of the statuses are not up to date. Then this would be a minor nonconformity. Or let's say backup, if you're doing the backup, but let's say once in a month this backup is not done as it should be according to your backup policy. Again, this would be a minor nonconformity. Okay, now what to do if a major nonconformity is raised? I mean, is it like an end of the world? Well, of course it's not. So when you get this major nonconformity, especially when the auditor sends you the report, then you will know exactly what needs to be corrected. And the auditor will give you typically a 3-month period to correct this major nonconformity. And once you correct this, for instance, if you're missing statement of applicability, then you will write this document or do any other correction that needs to be done, and you will send the proof that this major nonconformity has been closed. You will send this proof to the certification auditor. So the certification auditor, once he receives this proof, will then examine if the nonconformity has been closed correctly, and if he thinks it is, then you will receive the certification. You will receive the certificate once this is done. So my point is, even though you get the major nonconformity, which is quite embarrassing, it doesn't really have to be that, let's say, bad, because the only thing that you will have to do is correct this major nonconformity, send the proof. In some cases, the certification auditor will have to come back to verify this. In some cases, he will do this only by examining the proof, let's say, over the internet or something like this, and then you will get your certificate with a certain, let's say, delay. Okay, Now, let me see, yeah, let's go to the next slide. And by the way, you can actually ask me questions already during my presentation, and I'll try to answer your questions even before the Q&A session. Now, basically, what actually can you expect from certification auditors? First of all, you have to understand that they're here to audit, not to consult you. So they can, the thing is, they can tell you what's wrong, but they really cannot tell you how to fix it, okay? Because they're not a consultant. They cannot really, you know, expect them to, if they found a nonconformity, you cannot expect them to I don't know, devote, I don't know, 3 hours in explaining on how to correct this nonconformity. This is not going to work because he's not a consultant, he is an auditor. But there is, I would say, a kind of a gray area where actually you can take some kind of, I would say, advantage of. So basically this auditor this auditor will, let's say, tell you what the nonconformity is, and if you have, let's say, some kind of a positive relationship with this auditor, then this auditor will maybe take, I don't know, a minute or 2 or 5 minutes to give you directions on how to you know, resolve a problem. Again, he will never give you a detailed explanation, but at least he will direct you in the right direction on how to start resolving things. And sometimes this advice, although very short, can be of, you know, extreme value to you. So my point is, and I'm coming back to the main point now, you really should develop this positive relationship with the auditor, because in such cases the auditor will, let's say, be more friendly to you, and without actually breaking any ethical codes, he will direct you on actually in which direction you can start resolving your problem, which again is a very, very good advice and very useful. And I mean, this is directly related to the mindset of an auditor. So if, let's say, if you have an auditor and if the auditor asks you a question and you're trying to avoid the question, or you know that you have a problem and that you're trying to hide things from him, I mean, the auditor, especially an experienced auditor, will see you through right away. He will know right away that something's wrong. And, you know, if you're avoiding him or lying to him, he will definitely, you know, feel maybe not offended, but he will definitely not develop a positive relationship towards you. So I would say that, you know, it's, I mean, the auditor will eventually find out the problem anyway. So, you know, it's better, you know, to tell him openly where the problem is, because at least the auditor will then view you as someone who is, you know, genuinely interested in let's say, building up the information security in your company. And then actually, in this case, he will actually try to help you just a little bit on how to resolve things. If you develop a negative relationship with an auditor, of course, this auditor will not help you with anything. He will just, you know, issue nonconformities, and this would be the end of it. So it's very important that you respect this auditor and that you understand his way of thinking, and that actually you again develop this positive relationship. Okay, now the next thing is what is important for you to know is that there are basically 3 methods of collecting the evidence. The auditor, certification auditor, has 3 methods to collect the evidence, and one method is, of course, checking all the records and documents. I mean, this is something to be expected, but the second method is actually personal observation. So the auditor can go anywhere around your company and really, you know, take a look at anything that he is interested in. So, for instance, let's say that you have a, I don't know, server room, and if he wants to see how the, I don't know, servers are protected, I mean, physically protected, then he will enter the server room and observe your servers. He might, I don't know, take a look at your fire protection systems, if they're up to date, if they are verified, and so on. So basically, all the things he will be able to do. But also, and probably the most, I would say, problematic way of collecting the evidence, I mean problematic from the auditee point of view, are interviews with employees. So the auditor has the right to speak to any employee within the ISMS scope. So he can speak to, I don't know, IT administrators, he can speak to I don't know, the people who are from the business part of the organization, from the personnel, let's say, department, but also with the CEO or with his secretary. And you know, what I often did as a certification auditor, I very often actually spoke to the secretary of the CEO and actually tried to see how actually they have observed the security rules. So in some cases, I actually found out that the secretary of the CEO is using his password to enter some payment systems. And of course, this was a nonconformity, and a big one. So you know, you always have to you have to understand that this certification auditor really can access anything that he is interested in, with the purpose, of course, to see if the security rules are complied with. Okay, and what the auditor can and what the auditor cannot do. So, as I mentioned, he can basically ask anything that he is interested in. What he cannot do is actually raise a nonconformity if there is no evidence. So if he only thinks that something is going wrong, but he cannot find the evidence, then you actually cannot, he cannot really raise a nonconformity. He has to find the proof. If there is no actually requirement, then also he cannot raise a nonconformity. So for instance, let's say that the auditor thinks that you should be doing the backup every 1 hour instead of, let's say, every 2 hours, or I don't know, every 24 hours. Now in this case, actually he cannot raise a nonconformity because he only thinks that it has to be done every 1 hour, because there is no requirement in the standard, and if you don't have such a requirement in your own policies and procedures, then he actually can't raise a nonconformity against it. So I'm telling you this, that if you notice that the auditor is either, you know, raising nonconformities without having evidence or without having requirements, then this is something that you can argue about with him, but not with about other things. This is basically the only thing that you can actually argue with him. And you know, this is really something that's important to bear in mind. Okay, I have a question from Lonice. She says, we recently underwent a surveillance review, and every document we provided for review, he wanted a copy uploaded to Box. Is it okay to refuse the request if he reviewed the documents on site? Well, basically this is something that you should agree with the auditing company when you make the agreement, and you should really see which kind of, let's say, workflow they have. If they want to have a copy, a photocopy, or if they want to have electronic copy of all the documents. And well, typically the auditors want to read the documents in peace. So if they only see them in your own company, they might forget about some things. So basically they will typically want to have those documents on their computer to study them thoroughly. So I would say that any auditor will ask you somehow to send that you send them these documents. So this is, I would say, nothing out of the ordinary. Okay, Loniz also added, a lot of documents are classified as internal only or confidential. Well, I mean, sorry to say this, but the certification auditor can also view confidential information. So if he would want to, he would also, I don't know, can go through some of their confidential, I don't know, personnel files. So this is something that he can do. The same goes for the documents. Now, the thing is that if these documents are classified as confidential, then the certification auditor needs to comply with your security rules on how to protect this documentation. So if you have classified documents, this means that you should have the classification policy, and then the auditor should comply, and you have to make him actually comply with your classification policy. Okay, another question from Andreas. Out of my experience, during a certification auditor, an auditor can raise observations, and according to the certification body can raise also opportunity for improvement actions. What's your point of view? How would you differentiate a minor nonconformity from an observation? Observation or the opportunity for improvement are basically, I would say, something that is here actually to help you, but this is not mandatory. So typically the report consists of 3 parts: major nonconformities, minor nonconformities, and observations. And these observations are, again, not mandatory for you. These are, let's say, only suggestions on what you can improve. But if you do not actually comply with these observations, nothing serious is going to happen. But if you don't, of course, correct the nonconformities, something serious is going to happen because you will lose your certificate. So this is the main difference. And of course, if you have, I would say an auditor with a positive attitude, then this auditor will write, let's say, quite useful observations that you can use to improve your system. So these observations are something that is very often quite useful. Okay, now let's move on to the next slide. Now, what are actually the key things that the auditor will be looking for? First of all, the auditor will be looking for the mandatory documentation. So the documentation that is actually the documentation that is required by the standard. And actually, I can write actually here. I have an article which speaks about mandatory documentation. So just give me a second. Okay, I sent you. Okay, I'm sorry. I'll have to send this again. Okay, I've sent you now the link through the chat window where you'll find this article about all the mandatory documents that are required by the standard. The next thing is that you need to have all the activities that are complying with your standard. So this is something they will check. And the third thing is that they will check whether all the activities in your company are compliant with your own documentation. So again, I'm emphasizing here, you shouldn't really write the documents that are not needed, or you shouldn't write the, let's say, details in your documents that are not going to be, let's say, possible to comply with it, or that wouldn't be really sensible. So if it doesn't make sense for you to do the backup every 2 hours, why would you write this in your policy? Don't write policies that you don't need to have, or don't write policies or details of the policies which are not, let's say, meaningful, or not that are not really something that are useful for you. So these three things are basically what the auditor will check out. Okay, now let's see when actually your company is ready to go for the certification. First of all, you need to have, of course, all the mandatory documents written. Then the next thing is that you need to implement all the controls that are planned according to your risk treatment plan. So basically, the risk treatment plan is a kind of, let's say, implementation plan, if you will, where you define actually which controls you will implement, and you also define the deadlines. And actually, I can show you how this looks like in practice. So this is the risk treatment plan that we sell actually as part of our ISO 27001 documentation toolkit, and it's rather simple. I mean, there is not much to it, but what you have normally is description of activities that you need to perform, what are the resources, financial and other, needed for the implementation, who is responsible, what are the deadlines, which training and awareness programs you have related to this particular control or activity, also how you will evaluate whether this activity or control was implemented properly, and the status. The status means, let's say, that you have already implemented or that you are still planning it, and so on. So you need to have this kind of a document for the certification, and you need to prove actually that you have implemented all the controls that you have planned for prior to the certification. Okay, let's go back to the presentation. What you also need to have as part of, before you go for the certification, is you need to perform all the internal audit. So internal audit is mandatory, and you need to produce a report from the internal audit, and you also have to take or resolve all the corrective actions that you have raised during the internal audit. Yeah, actually there is another link that I can send you. There is the, we have an internal auditor course, which is actually free, so I'll send you now the link. So this is the link to this internal auditor course, and actually this course is of course produced by my company Advisera, but the certificates are actually, if you pass this course, you actually get the certificate from PECB. Okay, now the next thing that you need to have before the certification are you need to perform the management review. So basically the management review is, let's say you could call it a meeting of the top management where actually they make some crucial decisions about your information security management system based on some inputs that are prescribed by the standard. And you need to produce some kind of documents based on this management review. This is typically in the form of management review minutes. And again, what you have to do is you have to really do what you have documented. So, you know, if you have, I don't know, 20 or 50 or 100 documents, you have to make sure that you're complying with everything that you have written there. And then basically you're ready for the certification. Okay, now what are the benefits of the certification? So, of course, marketing. This is if you get the certificate, then you will probably have something that your competitors do not have, and then you could get new clients. And you know, whenever you mention it to your executives that you can get additional revenues, additional clients, then this is something they start listening, because this is, of course, something that is rather profitable. Now, you could also decrease costs. So, for instance, if you have let's say a client who should actually be auditing your company. Let's say that you're you're developing some kind of a software for some major bank, and of course they want to do their security audit of what you're doing, because they want to make sure that you're complying with all security rules. And if they send their auditor, this auditor will probably spend, like, I don't know, 5 days auditing your company. But if you get certified against 27001, the bank will still send their auditor, but this auditor will probably not spend, like, I don't know, 5 days. Maybe he will spend only 1 day, because he will know that already ISO 27000 auditors have been there in this company, in your company before you, and this is something that will decrease your costs. Okay, getting priority. This is something that is quite important, because if you have, you know, set as a deadline for the certification, let's say that you want to be certified until, I don't know, 15th of March 2017, then of course your top management, but also all the employees in the company will understand or will see this project as something that is much more important than if you didn't have any kind of, let's say, strict deadline. So if you have already scheduled, let's say, the visit of the auditors on a certain date, this will definitely speed up the whole thing in your company. And also objective input. As I mentioned, you know, if you have an experienced auditor, if you develop this positive relationship with this auditor, then actually you can get lots of experience from this person, from this auditor. And believe me, that they have audited hundreds and hundreds of companies, and they have seen, you know, many good things, but also, you know, many bad things, and they can certainly help you on, you know, how to improve your information security. Okay, just to mention that, you know, there are many actually companies already certified now, more than 20,000 worldwide, and both smaller companies and bigger companies are going for a certification. I mean, like US companies like Dell and Microsoft are already certified, so it's something that is really quite becoming quite popular now. Okay, so just to go to the conclusion, as I mentioned, you can, you know, really develop this positive relationship, positive approach with the certification auditor, and then you can actually benefit from this certification. And of course, before you call the certification body, before you invite the certification body, you should definitely check out if you have prepared everything. And okay, this would basically be it. So, Ardian, I think that you should take over now.
Yes, Dejan. Thank you for delivering this informative presentation. Before moving on to the Q&A session, we want to inform you that PCB provides training and certification services for ISO 27001 Introduction, Foundation, Lead Implementer, and Lead Auditor. The training is designed to provide you the required knowledge to carry out audits of information security management systems against ISO 27001, and also be able to run the processes involved in implementing the ISMS as defined in ISO 27001. Now we will go ahead and take some time to answer some of the questions from the attendees. The first question is, can you please tell us what might happen if you don't correct the minor non-conformity within 12 months?
Okay, so in 12 months, the auditor will come back. He will do this so-called surveillance visit. And if you didn't correct the minor nonconformity, this minor nonconformity actually grows into a major nonconformity. So basically, you can lose the certificate if you didn't correct the minor nonconformity in this 12-month time.
Thank you, Dejan. Now, because of the time limitation, we will answer the rest of the questions by email. Thank you again for this great presentation, and thank you everyone for attending today's webinar. I would like to let you know that this webinar will be recorded and posted to our website as well as on our YouTube channel. Once you leave today's webinar, you will receive a survey about the presentation, and we would appreciate it if you would complete it and provide us with your feedback. Also, if you're aware of an interesting topic that you would like to discuss and participants would benefit from, please feel free to write down your suggestions. I hope you had the time to learn some new valuable things today's presentation. Thank you all and have a great day.